He plays rugby league for St Helens and for Italy, the land of his father. Originally from New South Wales, he's played for West Tigers, Gold Coast Titans and 5 times for the Kangaroos of Australia. He weighs in at 102 kilograms and does the grunt work of a front row forward. His name is Anthony Lafraci, aka Boof. It's never easy swapping the subtropical climate of Queensland's Gold Coast for the less considerate weather of the northwest of England, the mill town of St Helens. But at the age of 31, Lafraci made the journey to the dark winter of Europe. That was in November 2011. And although the sun may not shine quite as much as it used to, and the rain may fall a touch more often, St Helens has become home.
Yeah, it's good, especially this time of year in the summertime. Kids love hanging out at the park, and being so close to home, we normally just kind of come here, hang out and just enjoy the sun. And kids love the ducks and the bird, obviously, but the best part is the ice cream van up the road here. So especially when it's not open, it's a bit of a promise broken, really. So yeah, we tend to come here often and enjoy our time out here. Come, Roxy, ice cream. Ice cream.
As culture shocks come, it was a tough one. Lafraci arrived on his own to find a home and settle into his new work environment at Langtree Park. He had to leave his family behind at the start, his wife Peter Lee joining him some weeks later, along with Oscar, who's now 7, and Finn, who's 5. 2-year-old Roxy is the English addition to the family, born shortly after their arrival. Those first few weeks were a time of darkness.
We come here in November 2011, yeah. So it was, I actually moved over 6 weeks by myself. Well, Pete and the kids stayed back home. Well, Pete and the boys at that time. So yeah, I come over 6 weeks by myself here, and it was pretty lonely, to be honest. I didn't realise it got dark at 3:30 in the afternoon. So for my 6 weeks, it was go to training in the morning, come back, I'd have dinner about 3 o'clock, and then I'd be asleep by 4:30 in the afternoon.
The distance between their current home in Merseyside and their extended family down under has created its own problems.
It is tough, like really tough. I think I couldn't have been more happier when they got here, but you know, obviously being so far away, I can understand what I suppose our family's feeling back home when we're over here. But yeah, once they got here, everything seemed well. You know, I knew they'd enjoy it. You know, something different for the boys and Pete to experience. And yeah, once they got here, it was great. House full of people again.
Travelling to Europe is a mandatory part of any Aussie's education, and so when the opportunity came up, the Lafracis didn't have to think too long about it. A daunting new challenge to shift continent, but a great chance to experience something different.
It was like a lot of back and forth between like different clubs or staying in the Gold Coast or coming here, and I was like, oh well, let's come here, it'll be a good experience. And then when it came to, oh well, we actually might be coming, I cried, and I don't cry very often, but I think because it was change, but I was excited as well, and I was just, you know, I think as long as we all stick together and experience it all, I knew it was going to be good, but yeah, it was just change. I think at first was a little bit.
I think the initial reaction when I actually agreed to the contract to sign over, we just kind of said, well, this is it, what are we doing, you know, so. But it was not as if it was a knee-jerk reaction.
It's a lifetime experience, though.
Yeah.
And I think once you're here, you know, you live in a bit of a bubble in Australia. You know, you don't venture out to many other countries because, you know, it's quite isolated. That once you come here, you just realise a different way of living, and, you know, broadens your horizons a little bit.
Swings and roundabouts of family life certainly keeping the Lafracis busy, sorting schools and making sure the kids do the homework. But this is the kind of park where life is sweet. There's no pressure from the job, no facing the fans, and no justifying the paycheck. That is reserved for the other park, Langtree Park, home of St Helens, a proud founder member of the Northern Rugby Football Union back in 1873. One of the most famous clubs in the world, their white jersey with the red V, an iconic symbol of rugby league around the world. St Helens, who had last won the Super League title in 2006, losing the next 5 finals. No pressure for Lafraci then, who'd already ticked most of the boxes in Australia. Just a new challenge which came at the right time.
I pretty much did everything in the game. Obviously in the NRL, I won a premiership, you know, represented city, country, New South Wales and Australia, and obviously the move to the Gold Coast was great as well. Unfortunately, we didn't get to a grand final like we would have liked to on the Gold Coast. But I ticked a lot of boxes back in the NRL, and achieved a lot. And I think to test myself in the Super League and at a new club and a new league and a new country is more appealing to me to make the move.
Lafranchi had indeed done it all in Australia. A premiership winner with West Tigers in 2005, a New South Wales State of Origin representative, 5 times a Kangaroo. The differences between the game in Australia and in England were immediately apparent, not just on the field though.
I didn't know what to expect from the crowd, and obviously that's probably one of the first things that I noticed was the crowd and the fans and spectators. They do a lot of singing over here in the English Super League, and and I think the game itself was a bit quicker. A lot of attacking rugby league, and Saints are a really good attacking team, so that kind of took me by surprise. But it's really enjoyable to play this style of rugby.
Lafranchi began his professional career with the Tigers in 2001, racking up 102 games. In 2007, he left Sydney for the Gold Coast Titans, by coincidence chalking up another 102 appearances. So how does Australia's NRL compare with England's Super League?
Play a lot more in the NRL. Obviously they're big, a lot of structure and completing sets and grinding games, and I think that just levels out what type of competition is over there. Week in, week out, it's kind of a grind game. You're coming up against a quality team each and every week. So that's probably the difference between the NRL and Super League.
Lafranchi was injured in April, damaging nerves in his arm during the game against Castleford. Briefly, there was some talk of retirement, but Boof chose instead to dog it out. No rugby through May and June, just hard sweat in the gym. John Wilkin and club captain Paul Wellens are both England and Great Britain internationals. They've been at St Helens since the Industrial Revolution. They expect the new arrivals to buy into the tradition and ethos of the club. And they certainly haven't been disappointed by what they've seen from Lafranchi.
When an Australian player comes to this country, I think in the first few weeks you're just going out your way to find out as much about this person as you can. This person's coming into your place of work. So when we met Anthony, I think my first impressions were he's such a polite, well-mannered, nice, caring sort of family man. Those things just come flooding across from his personality, and really that's not changed now 3 years down the line. Is that's what we've come to know him as, is a real genuine caring fellow who's passionate about the game and also passionate about his family. Peter, his wife, and his kids who are just lovely as well.
I watched for a bit of Australian rugby myself, so I knew a lot about Buff, and I actually played against him for England against Australia in the 2008 World Cup, so I knew a fair bit about him as a player and what qualities he had. So when he agreed to come to St Helens, we were delighted he was on board.
It's awkward enough wrestling with the new faces, and a new culture takes some getting used to. So it's always nice to have someone around who reminds you of home. Lafranchi was fortunate to find the New Zealander Sia Soliola already in situ at the club. He would go on to captain Samoa in the 2013 World Cup. And then last year, Willie Manu pitched up on Merseyside. Born in Sydney, but a Tongan international, Manu had played with Lafranchi back in those Tigers days.
Me and Anthony go way back. We played together in Australia when I was, I think we were under 19s and 20s, so we played together. So I knew Anthony from back in Australia. So obviously when coming over to St Helens, I talked to him about the club, and I know he's done a lot in rugby league, played for Australia, not New South Wales. So he's like a professional, like ultimate professional. So. He's a good role model and someone that you sort of looked up to when we're playing alongside him.
I was pretty excited actually, after knowing what the qualities of Buff or Anthony Lafranchi, just the way he gets around the park, and a couple of years before he actually. I actually played against him in the Anzac Test team when he played for Australia, and he actually had some strings of a few good years for Gold Coast, and it was actually sort of what we were looking for at the time, with because he was playing back row. And after losing James Graham, I think he was probably the perfect guy to sort of come along and try and fill in the spot for Jammer.
Lafraci quickly began to make his mark on the field, not resting on his considerable laurels, which include an appearance in the 2008 World Cup final against New Zealand. In his first season, he scored 8 tries and nailed 601 tackles. It was pretty much the same last season as well, an immense work rate and willingness to get his hands dirty. And it's that professionalism which means that he hasn't just won the friendship of his teammates in the dressing room, but also their respect.
No, he's a pretty easygoing fella, and he's pretty. I actually learned a thing or two off him when he actually first came here, as well. But for us as overseas players, we try to help out the new boys as much as we can. You know, it's everybody's different in the way they approach coming over to England. But mate, Boof was easygoing. He found his joint and got along with the boys really well, pretty easy, pretty quickly, and yeah, his adjustment was really good.
His professionalism, I think, you know, his attention to detail from the game is second to none. His preparation, the way he conducts himself, his communication on the field, he really is a true professional, and he sets an example for a lot of the young guys coming through our junior system here, because you know, he's had a long successful career, and it's no coincidence that's off the back of a great work ethic.
2012 wasn't a great success for St Helens, as they sacked 2 coaches and failed to reach the semi-finals for the first time in 12 years. 2013 was much better. They reached the preliminary semis this time. Lafranci's form consistently good, another 8 tries and 562 tackles, completing the transition.
I suppose that makes it easier to kind of perform on the pitch. So when you got kind of make good mates off the field with the English guys and the import guys that are here as well, it does make the transition a lot easier. It took a bit to adapt to, you know, obviously the structure that Nathan brought in, and you know, it was probably a bit of a learning curve early on last year. We had a lot of guys mix in, you know, key positions. I think our 9, 6, 7 and 1 kind of got mixed around a bit last year, and I think this year with the bringing in of Luke Walsh and, you know, obviously Johnny at fullback and Robes at 9 and Lance O'Hara at 6, we've kind of stuck with that combination, and we've seen, obviously been 12 months now under Nathan Brown, and you know, everyone seems to know their role a lot better, and the structure kind of seems to be in place a lot easier.
Now 33, Lafraci knows he's in the latter days of his career, but also that he's collected a mountain of knowledge about the game. Just as he benefited from the wisdom of his elders when he was starting out, he now dearly wants to pass that knowledge on.
It's something I pride myself on. I remember, you know, to this day I had a lot of help when I was coming through as a young fellow with the senior guys, and yeah, that put me in a good position where I am now. You know, obviously with the professionalism and, you know, kind of preparation to playing and on and off the field. So yeah, now I'm also shoes on the other foot. I'm the senior guy of the squad now, and yeah, I enjoy kind of giving feedback to the younger fellas, and you know, I'm an open book. I love to help out where I can, and you know, obviously lead by examples on and off the field as well, and you know, hopefully that can rub off on the young fellas coming through.
He's a senior player amongst, you know, like the team now, and yeah, he's always giving like good hints and tips like during the game, training, and so like, you know, it's great to have him around. You know, it's always great, you know, especially the sport that we play, for us to, you know, once we get tired and a bit fatigued, and with someone sort of talking to you, you know what you have to do next, and you just help each other out.
Yeah, his communication on the field, I think, is Buff's greatest strength. He's very vocal. He talks to the players inside and out of him, not only what he wants, but what he expects of them. He doesn't let anybody get away with taking shortcuts. He's on the back quite a lot, which, you know, it's imperative, you know, within rugby league environments, and especially when you come to big games where small margins are the difference between winning and losing.
He may not have the longevity with the club that others have, but Lafranchi has become a respected voice in the changing room, a senior pro that understands the game inside and out, and commands silence and respect when he talks. James Roby is another St Helens one-club man. He's impressed by Lafranchi's drive to be the best.
Yeah, he talks a lot, very much so, definitely in training as well. We do, obviously when you're doing any sort of drill, you need a little bit of communication between yourselves, and especially when we do defensive drills, there's a massive difference when you throw Buff in there. He likes to talk probably a little bit too much sometimes, never shuts up, but yeah, he's very good at communicating on the field.
When he needs to be, Buff's, like when he talks, you know, he makes a lot of sense when he actually talks about it. He doesn't talk awfully loud or awfully much, but when he does it, it's actually you get quality out of him.
He's vocal, he puts his points across. It's not a great deal, but when he does, I think it carries more weight. I think he understands that. We have a few guys within the group who are quite vocal, and Buff's one of them. You know, and when he does speak, it's mostly about the honesty side of things, the attitude part, because I think that's what he understands and appreciates more than anybody. Is that within this game, it's a tough environment, rugby league, and you only get out of it what you're prepared to put in.
Easy going off the pitch perhaps, but Lafranchi is anything but laid back when he's at work. Even when injured, he trains hard, consistently working on his game. He asks the best of himself and of his teammates.
I think he came out from, that was my local area. So when Buff came, he was, he was a hard trainer. So back then when we were younger, and it sort of shows if you work really hard and you stick to what you're doing, and it pays off in life when you do work hard. So Buff's been a great example of that. When we first started, he was a bit bigger before, wasn't he? So yeah, he's trained a bit hard, and he's got him to where he's at now.
He's very demanding as a teammate. He wants the guys around him to try their best and do their best at all times. That's like a non-negotiable when you're around Anthony.
The peak of Lafranchi's career came in 2008 when he played for Australia in the World Cup, his call-up to the squad coming the day after the death of his father Romano. His father's roots then opened the door for Lafranchi to play for Italy at the 2013 World Cup, which saw them claim a famous win over Wales.
It was a privilege to play international rugby league for Italy. I think it was more of a great honour, and it kind of stems back to pride in the family. Obviously I was representing my dad, and that I took a lot of pride in that, and it was a great honour to represent I suppose my father and playing rugby league and with the Italian rugby league.
I was fortunate enough to be involved in the coverage of the opening game for the BBC. So I worked for the BBC and watched Anthony play in that opening game against Wales, where there was no chance for the Italians, and really those guys stepped up. Anthony in particular, I thought he had a fantastic World Cup. The Azzurri, the Italians were a real surprise package. And
yeah, I've not too much seen of his Italian side, to be honest. He's just more of a typical Aussie from my point of view. But yeah, he's when he was playing for Italy in the World Cup, he was a bit more patriotic then than he probably has been in the past. But yeah, he's definitely more Australian, I'd say.
Just going to go inside the pub for a drink and a game of something. Come in.
Hey boys, going on, mate? Away? Yeah, good. How's it? Nah, nothing, mate. Day off today. So. How are you? All right. Right. Nice to meet you, mate. How you doing, mate? Yeah. Chizzy. Nice to meet you, Chizzy. How are you, bud?
Like most Aussie sportsmen, Lafranchi's a social animal. He enjoys a beer and the occasional game of darts. Sometimes with these two, world number 26 Michael Smith, world number 9 Dave Chisnell, runner-up to Martin Adams in the 2010 World Championships. both of them passionate St Helens fans. St Helens has more than its share of celebrity supporters, the actors Johnny Vegas and Ricky Tomlinson among them, and a host of sportsmen follow them closely as well. The cricketer Andrew Flintoff, boxer Ricky Hatton and footballers Tim Cahill and Joey Barton all root for the Saints.
That's right. Right there, well done. Nice, Elsie. Nice, Izzy. All right, mate.
The day off is the chance to take Roxy on the short journey to the Big Smoke. Liverpool is just 20 kilometres from St Helens, an easy day trip, and a welcome chance to get back beside the sea, an everyday occurrence when they lived in Sydney and the Gold Coast. Liverpool was one of the main points of departure for emigrants heading for Australia in the 19th century, and that lends a little bit of perspective to Lafranci's journey.
Yeah, it is, you know, obviously the very old buildings and a lot of new buildings mixed together, so obviously coming down here, it's a good reminisce with the old with the new, and you know, in hindsight, it probably the docks, if anything, might be older than Australia itself. So it's a good spot to come down and enjoy the scenery.
It also happens to be a very strong part of the English sporting firmament, and Lafranchi hasn't missed out on the opportunity to return the support in various areas, notably at Anfield.
Liverpool being probably the closest major city, we've adapted the Liverpool Football Club as our home team. Been to a few games at Anfield, and obviously those rivalries are there with Everton just across the road and Anfield and Liverpool, so it kind of reminds me of the Wigan and St Helens kind of derby games when you go watch them ones.
Lafranchi only signed a 2-year contract, but he's in his 3rd season already. This year's injury has led him to think about the end of his playing days and a future beyond the bandages and the liniment.
It's always in the back of your mind. Obviously, we enjoy our times here. We're in no hurry to move back, but as the reality is, you got to come. Rugby league's got to stop at some time, and I suppose I'm pressing towards 33 and 34, and I've had a great career. 14 years as a professional, and whilst I enjoyed my time, we've got to move back at some stage. So yeah, you talk amongst the family, and obviously you are away from your immediate family and friends, and to make the move back, but it's another chapter in your career, and we'll take that when it comes.
It's possible that Lafranchi will head back to Australia at the end of the season, perhaps as an ambassador with the Gold Coast Titans, perhaps as a TV commentator. Whatever happens, he looks set to remain in the game which he's graced for so long, for some years to come.
Enjoy the game. I suppose I know the game, and whilst you play in front of the camera, I like to be, get behind the camera and obviously, report on the game, or commentate on the game, or just kind of continue to be involved with the game. It's I see the game of rugby league as something that's I know, and I know it well, and to kind of, I suppose, pass my knowledge on to other people is something that I'm passionate about and I'd like to do in the future. 10 seconds ago here in the Super League final. By the looks of it, the Wigan Warriors are going to take this one out 30-16. We've got the crowd counting the clock down, the players watching it. As the full-time siren goes here, we see the players celebrate the Wigan Warriors, their 3rd title in the Super League seasons. Full credit to the Warrington Wolves. They put up a brave fight, but for the Wigan Warriors to come back from 16-2 down to take this out, it just shows what a great team and what a great club this is. We wrap it up here with Wigan Warriors, the champions of the Super League once again. I know I sound great, but I think I've got a few more years left in me on the pitch. Maybe one day, fingers crossed.